I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's EGGBURT, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
That is John Combest. I am Brad. Together we do this show. We do it live, 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday. If you're listening to it on the podcast or on the YouTube channel, you can actually listen to us live. We broadcast it in the St. Louis metro area on 104.5, but you can stream it anytime. Just go to either bjshow.co or egbert.com, and you'll find the link right there. You have to click on Egbert's nose, otherwise it won't work. Okay. Couple things to talk about. You're not. Are you still a baseball fan?
Oh yeah.
Did you see the story about the Major League history that was done yesterday? Did you hear this weird story?
Like a historic event happened yesterday?
Yes.
No, I didn't hear it.
For the first time in Major League history, one player has played on both teams in a game.
No way. How did that happen? Was he traded in the middle of the game, I guess?
Well, interesting story. The guy's name is Danny Jansen, and originally he was with the Blue Jays, and they had a game between Boston and the Toronto Blue Jays, which got interrupted by rain, and they postponed the game. And the bizarre part of the story was Danny Jansen was actually at bat when the game was suspended. So, and this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago that this game was suspended. So yesterday they had the resumption of the game. The only problem was that during the time when Danny Jansen played in the first half of the game, he was traded and he's now on the Boston Red Sox. So he is in Major League history as the only player in the history of Major League Baseball to play on 2 different teams in the same game. He played on both the Red Sox, and because even though it wasn't, the same game as far as the exact date, as far as officially is concerned, it was the same game because it was a resumption of a rain-delayed game. And the bizarre part of it was they had to put in a pinch hitter for him because, remember, he was at bat when the game was suspended, so they had to put a pinch hitter for him when the game resumed. And the interesting part of it is, I thought this was somewhat interesting, and especially in light of something that I heard the other day on another radio station, which I talk about in a minute, Major League Baseball asked for all these things for the Hall of Fame. They wanted the official scorecard. I think they wanted his uniform. They wanted his uniform.
I'm sure, yeah.
And various things that they want to put into the Hall of Fame as amazing, little artifacts of baseball history. Now, having said that, my old person who used to work for me, Sue Thomas, who's just really good, incredible person, incredible traffic reporter, just an all-around great gal. She's doing a new show on 97.1 where she does a history, and she does it on the weekends. And she runs on 97.1, runs on KMOX. And I guess about 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had the lady who was the curator for the St. Louis Cardinals Baseball Hall of Fame. And do you know that the Cardinals Baseball Hall of Fame is the only one like it in the entire major leagues?
No way. No other you're saying no other major league team has their own Hall of Fame at their stadium?
Well, they don't have it's apparently some of them have somewhat, limited kind of things, but the St. Louis one is so expansive. And she talked about the fact that the one that everybody's amazed when they find this out, that the New York Yankees have no historical unit that keeps like historical artifacts of the Yankees. And I'm going like, well, how can that be? And and once again, I think this is sort of emblematic of the fact that we here in St. Louis, and we have this attraction of baseball, where you go to most other cities, it's not there. I mean, certain cities have it. I mean, obviously New York has it with the Yankees and then the Mets, which came along in the 60s. But in Kansas City, it's not really there. It's there with the football team, with the Chiefs, but with the Kansas City Royals, in part because of the fact that they're not originally from Kansas City. Weren't they originally from like Philadelphia or something like that, weren't they?
Yeah, they were the Philadelphia Athletics, who, by the way, the Cardinals played in the World Series in the early 30s. I believe we beat them in 31. And yeah, so they were the Philadelphia Athletics.
Right.
And then let me look up exactly the history of that organization.
Okay, and see, the other thing is, like, for example, we've talked about this before. If you ever watch a Cardinals game telecast, when they play Miami, and you look at the stands, there's nobody in the stands. I mean, the Cardinals have had that problem recently where, forever and ever and ever, they pack the place, and now not so much anymore. But when you go down to Miami, a big crowd for them is 10,000 people. And people go like, if you're from St. Louis, people go, how can that be? How come nobody goes to the home games? Because for whatever reason, there's not the taste, the tradition, whatever you want to call it, of baseball that we have here in St. Louis. And, we have all these sacred figures. I mean, Whitey Herzog just died. Everybody was very sad about that. You had the situation with Jack Buck, who's become almost like a quasi-god in the St. Louis area. And not to diminish what he did, but if you look at it from a big picture, he was a baseball announcer. And most people go like, hey, well, he was a baseball announcer. And if you go outside of the St. Louis area, people go like, I mean, some markets have it, like Vin Scully with LA and stuff like that. But most markets, they don't look at their announcers as like the godlike figure. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah, I think it depends on the community. And by the way, to be clear, so I want to correct myself here. The Philadelphia A's moved from Philadelphia to Kansas City and then to Oakland.
Right.
And then Kansas City got an expansion team.
Right.
So
right.
I was incorrect there. But the A's did move from Philly to KC to Oakland, and then KC got an expansion club.
Yeah. So
but also we've talked about this I know before, Brad, but in Miami, for example, or Tampa Bay, every day you're competing with the beach, you're competing with weather, and if you're a family going to Tampa or you're going to Miami for vacation, do you want to spend 3 hours inside a dome, or do your kids want to spend another 3 hours at the beach or one of the many attractions?
Well, I think you're correct in the respect that if you look at the St. Louis area, I mean, what do we have as far as the natural...
Q in the Lou. You could take the kids to Q in the Lou.
Yeah, which I don't think is going to happen.
You could go to Baden. You could ride the tall Ferris wheel if you want to get your car broken into and take Instagram selfies and be like, we support urban St. Louis. We're on the Ferris wheel. Oh my God, look, they're breaking into our car.
Did you hear this bizarre story that happened yesterday in Forest Park?
I did. I happened to tweet it yesterday, Brad. And what my favorite part about it was the KSDK surveillance shot shows one of the brilliant young scholars is wearing a shirt that actually says riot on it. Like, isn't that, I don't know if it's irony or if it's to be expected if you're a young scholar and you're like, we're going to go steal some stuff today. I'm going to wear a shirt that says riot.
Okay, now hold it. Where did they get the video from?
They have I don't know. Maybe in the surrounding area. I didn't care enough to see. This
was on Channel 5. They showed surveillance pictures.
They showed surveillance, correct.
Okay, if you don't know the story, a guy apparently was sitting in front of the Muni. There's some benches there, and two guys came up from behind him to rob him. They took his cell phone, his wallet, and some other stuff.
Yeah, his keys,
his car keys.
And then they tried to get away in this car.
So then he chased them, and one of the robbers turned around, fired a round into the air, and pointed the gun at him, and essentially said, "Hey, MF, don't follow us." And the guy put up his hands and says, "Okay, I'm done. You can go, leave. Bye. See you later. Bye." That was right in front of
Brad, but hold on. We know that, and you've told stories before about how you go around North County and you're not scared to go anywhere. But let's say you're not Brad Hildebrand. This guy, it said, was 47. Do you think, and maybe the guy's from out of town, who knows? Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. But for a moment, we won't give him the benefit of the doubt. Who thinks it's a good idea to go to Forest Park?
But see, you're talking to the wrong guy. I have no problem with that.
I know, but I'm not asking you, and we know the whole thing, and you're always armed and whatever. We've heard that before. But do you think it's a good idea for an average 47-year-old man, Brad, not Brad Hildebrand, but the average 47-year-old to go sit on a bench in Forest Park? What do you think is going to happen to you?
Statistically speaking, nothing's going to happen to you. I mean, let's be honest. Nothing's going to happen. I mean, but the problem with that is it's the image of – it's like, for example, I mean – if you kid me about this all the time. I have no problem. I could get in my car right now, drive down to one of the Metrolink stations, drive to my favorite Metrolink station, which is what they call UMSL South, which nobody knows about still to this day. Get on Metrolink, go downtown, get out downtown right there at the Busch Stadium stop. Walk over downtown, walk all over the place. I have no problem with that. It doesn't bother me. And you say, well, you have a gun. Well, I don't necessarily have a gun. It wouldn't bother me. And part of it has.
But let me interrupt, Brad. Okay, so we know like you're not scared, all this other stuff. But is the risk now? You would say the risk is worth it. I can't imagine if I have to go downtown. If I go to a Cardinal game, I'm going to drop $40 to park in Stadium Garage East because I'm not parking on the street. And if I happen to be with a kid or I happen to be with someone else, I'm not going to subject them to 4 blocks of urban scholars. I'm going to park in a garage and cross the street and be safe. Now I'll just walk wherever I want to go. And that's great for you, Brad. And the likelihood that something happens, as you've pointed out, is statistically insignificant. But I'm not going to take that risk. I'll drop $40 and park in an expensive garage so I don't have to walk through the marijuana smoke, so I don't have to see savages walking around in packs. You get what I'm saying?
But John, you have fallen victim to the typical, bias that our news organizations give us. Oh, and I go back to the fact that okay, and it was a horrendous thing that happened when the guy went in and shot up the Kirkwood City Hall, killed a police officer outside, killed several people inside, shot the mayor. The mayor survived, but ultimately, I think 2 or 3 years later, succumbed to his injuries, never really recovered. Okay. I remember that story very well because, first off, it was horrendous. Second off, because the news media were like the reporters, when they were the reporters were being interviewed about, by other reporters. And they were going like, oh, I live in Kirkwood. I can't believe this happened in Kirkwood. Like there's invisible force field around Kirkwood that keeps out all the bad guys, okay? The problem is that I've said this before. I go back to my years ago working for the police department. The more affluent a neighborhood is, the better they are at suppressing bad things that happen within their city limits. Is there crime that goes on in Ladue? You're damn straight there is. Is there stuff that goes on in Chesterfield, Clarkson Valley, Frontenac, name of upper scale neighborhood? Yes, but the problem is they're real good at suppressing that by not releasing the police reports or cleaning the police reports, or like in the case of the department that I worked for, mysteriously that report just, we don't know what happened to it, it disappeared. That kind of stuff. And the problem with it is that the city of St. Louis has done a terrible job at this. Why? Because of the fact that they don't know how to do it. Is there more crime in the city? Yeah, there is. But yet, and here's the other problem. Guess where the Post-Dispatch is headquartered? Downtown St. Louis. Guess where it used to be? Guess where 2 of the 3 major TV stations were headquartered? Downtown St. Louis. Now there's only one of them. Channel 5 is the only one left because Channel 2 moved out a long time ago. Channel 4 moved out, I guess was either late last year or early this year. They're out in Maryland Heights, right there off of 270, just north of Page. So once again, if you're a reporter and you're a Post-Dispatch reporter, and you walk out your doorstep, you're in the city of St. Louis. So that's what you report about. And that's what I talk about all the time, about the fact that and I'm going to put in a plug for Westplex Chamber of Commerce. Go check it out, Westplex Chamber of Commerce. The idea being is the Westplex, being what used to be called the Golden Triangle, has 400,000 plus citizens. If you pulled out the Westplex area, picked it up with a great big shovel, dumped it into the middle of Kansas, it's the 47th largest city in the country. But the problem with Westplex...
Right between Tulsa and Minneapolis.
There you go. You've heard my pitch before. But the problem is that nobody reports on St. Charles County. Nobody reports on it because the TV stations don't think it's existing, okay?
And it's a good thing they don't. Let me interrupt, Brad. It's a good thing they don't because we know Newtown, for example, has a ton of carjackings. They have people sitting on park benches that get robbed and fired up in the air and a gun pointed at them. The difference is Newtown Police Department suppresses all those carjacking stories. Newtown is exactly, and by the way, you should see what St. Albans is like. Oh my God, you can't drive through there without getting bullet holes. The difference is the St. Albans Police Department suppresses because it's 1972 and the dispatcher can hide the police report. Well, see, the difference is, Brad, St. Louis City should follow the St. Albans and Newtown model of suppressing bad news.
Well, first off, there is no St. Albans Police Department. And
I know there's not.
Second off,
flex your municipal police knowledge once again.
Here. Second off, I'm going to ask you a trick question. What county is St. Albans in?
Franklin.
You're good. Most people say, well, it's in St. Louis County. No, it's in Franklin County.
But you see my point, Brad.
Yeah. Well,
anyway, go back. You were talking about Westplex, which is very important.
John, but here, this is not me. This is not me going back in old-timeyville when I used to be a police dispatcher. What do they talk about now? They talk about the fact that the crime statistics are down because you know why they're down right now?
Because nobody reports them.
Yeah, nobody's calling the police because of the fact that, if you dial 911 and like it's happened to me twice in the last year where I've dialed 911 and nobody answered. It rang and rang and rang and rang and rang and rang and rang. I was reporting car accidents.
Do you think they have you blocked, Brad?
No, it's John.
I mean, they might have you blocked.
John, I have to tell you, and once again, going back to the Gary V thing, okay? There's an interesting aspect that's happened to our society. Once upon a time, when you mailed something in the St. Louis area, it got there the next day. And remember, the post office had the motto, no matter rain, sleet, snow, whatever it was, okay? Now, if it's too hot, we're not going to deliver the mail today. It's too hot. We don't want our postal carriers to, be overcome with heat exhaustion or anything like that, okay? And once again, back in the day, you go back when the 911 system first came about, you dialed 911 and a cop showed up, okay? Now, not so much. Now, depending on the department, this happened to me the other day. I mean, do you dial 911 a lot?
I haven't dialed 911 in my life.
Never?
What am I going to cut off my arm with a backyard chainsaw? No, I've never called 911.
You've never been driving down a highway and seen an accident and reported it or anything like that?
No.
Never.
No.
I probably called 911 dozens and dozens of times. The other day, it happened to me. I was going through Augusta, and I was cutting through from one of the transmitter sites up into St. Charles, and going up the hill to Montel, which is a really nasty hill. There's a guardrail on one side, and there's the rocks on the other side. There's no shoulder there, and it's a blind curve. I come around, and there's a Jeep Wrangler just sitting there in the traffic lane. No lights on, the hood up, nobody around. Okay, I dialed 911. Okay, and this is what I always this happened to me numerous times when I'm in an area. They answer the phone and they say 911. Where's your emergency? I go, what department is this? And they say, this is Franklin County Sheriff's. I was in St. Charles County, but it got picked up by the cell tower in Franklin County, which is across the river. I said, can you transfer me to St. Charles County? And it takes like 2 minutes to get transferred. And they even say, what's your phone number you're calling from? So in case we get dropped, we can call you back, okay? I reported the stalled car. John, I'm telling you, there's probably not a month that doesn't go by that I don't dial 911 for a car accident or something like that. You've never dialed 911 in your life?
No. And if I saw a stalled car by the side of the road, I would assume that a Brad Hildebrand will drive by in the next 30 seconds and dial it in.
But that's the problem. The problem is everybody assumes that, and nobody does.
Apparently somebody does, because you call them once a week with you see an auto part by the side of the road, and let's have MoDOT come clean it up.
John loves to make fun of me. John,
I'm making fun of you, Brett. We need more people like you who would pick up their phone. Now, again, I see a stalled car. Why would I call 911? It's 2024. Whoever's in that car has a cell phone.
But the point being was, in this particular instance, there was nobody in the car. The car was abandoned in a terrible position to the point where I caught it coming around the corner, and other people won't. And the other problem was, you'd have to see where this was at. As I went around the car carefully, I was afraid that somebody was going to come around the other side of the blind corner. And once again, the speed limit there is 55. So in other words, you're moving pretty damn quick. And the reaction time for most people, especially when you're the twisties down there on Highway 94, most people don't know how to drive that area. I've driven it for years and years and years and years and years. So to the point where the reaction time is very, very, very short. And you think about it. Now, let me throw a scenario to you. We're over for a minute. I'm trying to get you out of here in a hurry. Let's say you didn't make that call. Let's say it was you, and you go, I'm not going to call that in. And then you hear that 3 people were killed because of the fact that somebody smashed into a Jeep Wrangler on 94 down the hill from Montel Winery. Wouldn't you feel bad that you didn't call that in that?
No. At 9:30 on the dot, I take my melatonin drink, and by 10 o'clock, I'm drowsy, and I finish cleaning up for the night, and I go to sleep.
John...
Oh, Brad, can you imagine if when you went to the store today and that homeless guy asked you for stuff and you didn't give him anything? He wrote a final note that said that Brad Hildebrand guy, he didn't give me my little Debbie snack, which I once rejected, but I would have eaten today, and I thought I was going to starve, so I killed myself. Brad, would you feel bad when you went to bed? No, absolutely not.
I would. I would feel horrible because of the fact
I
didn't give that guy the little Debbies that I normally give him.
No, he was in the spot he was in because of previous choices he made in his life. And for you to assume the guilt of that is just a martyr complex where you're taking on too much responsibility and making it about you when it has nothing to do with you.
That is John Combest, a spokesman for Lennox Heating and Air Conditioning Systems. And
That's
the reason he's a spokesman...
I'm actually the Maytag repairman.
No,
Brad.
the reason he's a spokesman for Lennox is he's a spokesman for their air conditioning system because they had one implanted in his body and his blood is ice cold. That's why.
Thank you, Brad. Well, you sound like every ex-girlfriend I've ever had.
Say goodbye, John.
Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?